Welcome to an authentic look at the real, extraordinary people defining our north of normal metro. Discover the characters in the city of frost and fire. I'm Conrad Fargo, and this is the Fargo Five. We're here with Russ Shell, the owner of RJ Energy Solutions. Hello, Russ Shell.
Hey, how are you doing?
People talk about me having a face for radio. I'll just tell you this much: you do not have a name for radio. all that S sound makes it very difficult. I like alliteration. That's why it's the Fargo Five. I don't know if you noticed the FF. Our segments are famous, fun. Now we're on to the fresh. Next we'll do frequently asked questions and finish with the favorites, right? So I like alliteration, but that S sounds as sibilants. It's difficult. So you're the owner. We already talked about how you hung out your shingle, 15 years ago, 12 years ago? Some time ago.
Yeah, 11 years ago. Yep.
11 years ago. Started all on your own. Started your own business from scratch, going very successfully. What's coming up? What's new?
Well, we just, some of the things that we've been developing, I talked about earlier. One thing we started, it would have been back in 2017, where we developed this Predictive Diagnostics software where we can see mechanical equipment breaking down ahead of time. Like for a walk-in cooler freezer, we don't want to see that it failed when the temperature is too high. We want to know weeks before that something's getting ready to go with it.
So how does it do that?
How does that is that every motor, every compressor has a electrical component, electrical value to it. And so that every time, if that amperage, what we call it, if that goes off just a little bit, it gives you a warning of what's going on with that machine.
Tell me more about the amperage. So would you be able to do this on like an air conditioning unit at home?
We could do it on an air conditioning unit at home. We could do it on your furnace at home.
Well, this is really, so I don't mention it all the time, but I'm a realtor at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Premier Properties. We do home inspections for people all the time, and we never really know how much life is left in an AC unit. You can see how old it is, but you'll have ones that'll last for 5 years and some that'll last for 50. Yep. I literally had one it was a Lennox in a 1975 home that was still running when I bought the home in 2021. I was almost 50 years old. Yep. You can tell how much life that thing has left in it.
Yep. And the other thing is, we do, one thing is I'm an energy efficiency consultant. And so we do a lot of residential energy audits, and which includes exactly what you're saying. Yeah. Looking at your water heater, looking at the air conditioning.
What's an energy audit cost?
Energy audit, what we charge is $350.
$350. Okay.
And that includes a blower door test where you put the house into a vacuum. And then we use a thermal imaging camera to see where energy is leaking through your walls. Or
very good. That's cool. Even if you're not buying a house, even you have your own house, maybe perhaps especially if it's a house that you're going to continue living in for the next 20 years. Yep. It wouldn't be a bad idea to get that kind of an energy audit.
Yep. I look at my phone. I can tell you how much energy my water heater's using. I can tell you how much our air conditioning's costing us. So
I want to talk more about how it is that you can tell, how much life an AC unit has left in it. You say so. It's got a control board. Is it you're reading it off the control board, or what are you reading?
What we read it off the performance of the unit itself. With amperages, we can.
So like the energy. So they're just hooked in with like a 20 amp regular wire, right? Yep. And so are you tapping into that 20 amp wire that's hardwired into there, or how are you?
Yep, we're tapping into that. And what it does is it's, like I say, we can tell by what the amperage is. It should be at this, it's going to be at a certain amperage all the time. If it starts going a little bit higher than it once used to be, that means we got some windings inside that compressor that's probably getting a little weak. Oh. Or maybe in the motors.
So a higher amperage draw is actually a bad sign.
That's a bad sign, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It shows you that it's falling apart, and so it's pulling more. Because the machine has become less efficient. Yep. So it needs to pull more amperage than it should in order to keep moving it, and that's an indicator.
Yep, and because the thing is, everything has a life cycle. The water heater, air conditioner has a life cycle, and some of them are way beyond it. But some of those that are way beyond it are still pretty efficient. Yeah. But those are kind of things where we can help with making that, that customer decision if it's a home, commercial building, or whatever that would be. So.
Very, very cool. So this is the Fargo Fresh segment. It's kind of been in flux. I think I've kind of nailed it down. So it's the famous is how did you get here? Fun is what you got going on right now. Fresh is what's coming up. Something else we've done in this segment, it's kind of come in and out as YouTube has changed their back end, is I like to look at YouTube and ask them what is it that they want me to talk about on this topic. So I used to be able to just type in energy, and then I would see this big list of everything people are searching for, and I'd be able to do some data analytics diving through that. It was a lot of fun. Now they're using AI, and it's not as useful. But they did give me a couple things when I typed in energy solutions. I just put in your company name. And so YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, maybe you're here because I put this into Russ' shell right now. So I want to get your off-the-cuff, kind of top-of-your-head reaction to what YouTube wants us to talk about. Are you ready for that? And if you don't have a lot to say, that's fine.
Okay, yeah.
Just tell me what you got.
Okay.
And this is the one that comes up the first. They want it as a short, so I might just chop this segment into a short, into a 15-second short or a 60-second short. But they want to know the problem with wind energy.
The problem with wind energy, of course, there has to be wind.
Okay.
And if there's not if there's not wind blowing, you're not making energy. The other thing about wind energy is that it takes a long time to pay back a wind tower for what it costs.
Okay.
And then, of course, when it's time to take that wind down, it's now what do we do with the blades on it?
Okay, so you're saying the actual windmills, those they cost a lot to build.
Yeah.
And so even though they generate energy, it's not necessarily cost efficient. And they don't, because they also don't have an infinite lifespan, right?
No, they don't.
And so, I mean, is it typical that over the course of the lifespan that they'll pay themselves back in the energy they produce?
They could.
Okay.
Some of them could, but some of them maybe some do not.
So it would really just kind of depend on the weather?
Depend on the weather. And, one thing about a wind turbine, they've got, in that wind turbine, they got a motor, they got bearings, they got those type of things. That's all mechanical, that has wear and tear on them. So that too has to be a factor of how much you're up there repairing those motors. So
okay, well that's very interesting. I mean, of course, it's interesting. So a lot of the times it's people who want energy efficiency that are also interested in these renewable energies. So it's interesting that you have that opinion on those. You do like to save energy, I imagine, any way you can, which is helpful, right? Yep. So the next thing that YouTube wants, real quick, in 15 seconds, because they want a short on it, they want the save energy speech. Do you got a whole speech about saving energy, or what's your pitch?
We do. One of the things we're working on right now, everywhere you look, there's wasted heat. And all that wasted heat could be recovered and used again for more energy.
Oh.
And so, like I say, if it's in a restaurant, if it's on a generator, if it's wherever it is, heat is energy.
Yeah.
And if it's going into the atmosphere, if you recover that, it can be reused again for energy.
Very interesting. All right. Well, we will have to look into that. Excited to see what exciting new things that you come up with these heat saving and I mean, you really do. You're kind of a green guy, aren't you? I mean, would you describe yourself that way?
I would probably say I'm a green guy, but at the same time, I don't sell solar panels.
Sure.
I don't sell wind turbines. And I have nothing against them.
Yeah.
But over some of the products that we're developing is extremely energy efficient. I don't want to bash the solar energy power or anything like that, but some of the things that we are doing, the payback is extremely quick.
Yeah.
And the emissions of CO2 is reduced significantly.
Well, and so it seems to me that like wind and solar, that is on the generating energy side of things, whereas your department is more on the spending less in the first place or capturing it once it's been dissipated and kind of feeding it back, recycling it almost.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
And we're recycling it right on the spot and putting it right back into the facility or whatever that would be.
Helpful, useful. Like seeing what you're doing. Love to hear about it. That's all the time for energy that we have right now. We are going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to have our frequently asked questions. So don't go nowhere.